Hello and welcome to Midlander Gaming. The last video was a little bit of a update on terrain. Painted up some TT combat houses, and I think the results were pretty good. I was pretty happy with them. Now in that video I did say that my original army list that I'd previewed or kind of decided in the very first video, I believe, which I'll maybe just put a picture somewhere on the screen of. I did say that there's been an update on that army list of what I was going to take or potentially take and get painted for the games. And the reason for a change is because, well, I went shopping and mistakes were made. So, yes, I saw this box set and it looked a very nice box set and a very good box set for what you get inside for the cost of it, and it had several items that I really like already. So for example, I've always liked the Pumas, always liked the Ostwinds or Wirbelwinds. I love the Panzer IVs, but I already had loads of those as well. And I love half tracks somewhere there. So yeah, it was a set that was really too good to refuse. The other thing it was that I'm quite limited on the infantry I already had, and I have no artillery. So it also provided extra infantry, which I need, and artillery, which I don't have at all. The other thing it provided was some cheap, kind of cheap, because they're very expensive, anti-tank platforms, and then Jag Tigers, which just look awesome, to be honest. Now, I didn't need to get these because, to be honest, I had enough, but the great thing is I've bought this, and to some degree I don't ever need to buy any more Germans ever again, because I now have artillery, I now have a reasonable amount of infantry, I now have AA, I now have scouts. It's all items I didn't have, which gives me a lot more flexibility when writing a list. So it was I mean, it's a relatively cheap set for what you get in there. I think it works out to something like £3-4 per unit per actual item, which is pretty good. And okay, it's around 70 quid or somewhere around there, depending on your discounts or where you buy it from. So, and to that degree, it's quite expensive, but for what you get, it's well worth the outlay, because it's a bit of a bargain. And like I say, I don't now need any more German parts in the future, and which is good, because Germans aren't actually my main army. My very first Flames War collection, shall we say, is Russians. Never really got round to finishing them, and I've got quite a lot of them as well, so maybe that'll be a future project. Then my second army is actually British, which are, although a lot smaller collection size, still reasonable size, is closer to being finished, and I've got early war desert and late war British. So really the Germans are more of something to use when someone wants to use British or Russians, so it gives me a bit of variety to try out something new, and allows them to use the British and Russians and not have a mirror match, should we say. So the great thing about this set is I don't think I ever need to buy anything else now. We all know that doesn't really happen. I won't mind betting I'll get some anti-tank guns, some infantry guns probably, because they look cool, but really I don't need to, so it can be one of those impulse purchases if you walk into a shop or something. So that's my new list. I probably will go with that list, because what you get in the box comes to 100 points. Now I built up the list. I'm going to show some pictures of that, and I'll do a bit of an overspeak, because I don't know how to do it other than the very basic way. So I've built them all up already. Everything in there is already built. And when I was building them up, I then decided that, or realised that my German book I do have, which is back there, doesn't have a lot of these units in. So I then had to go out and buy the German Bulge book. And while I was there, I thought, well, I might as well buy some command cards and some more infantry bases. So I bought the urban set. Maybe I'll show some pictures of that as well. So yeah, so I've now got a hell of a lot of Germans to paint. I've primed them with some Vallejo primer already, some Dunkel Gelb, I think it's called, Vallejo spray primer, which is a really good spray primer. I really like the Vallejo spray primers, but you just cannot get them anywhere. I think eBay is about the only place you can reliably get them, which is a real shame that they're not, considering how available Vallejo is for pots and airbrush primers and things like that. It's a real shame that the aerosols aren't more readily available. But anyway, yeah, they're all primed up, and I don't know when, but I'm going to try and get onto painting them as soon as possible. Experiment with some paint schemes. I'll probably experiment on the half tracks. I don't know why, but I feel like it's not as heart-wrenching to ruin a half track. Absolutely no reason or rhyme to that, but yeah, I'll paint them up and hopefully either have some kind of painting, I won't say tutorial because I wouldn't want to say I teach anyone anything, but a show and tell, shall we say, more of my paint schemes and painting methods, and hopefully over time, maybe unit by unit, show finished or completed units, with the aim of getting to 100 points. The only other thing I'd like to say, I suppose, is a bit of a hello to my current and future opponents, because they're probably the only ones watching this anyway. So firstly, hello Rob. He's the one that's kind of spurred me into action of doing my Flames of War. I've got other projects on the go. We play a lot of Lord of the Rings with my regular gaming friends and other games as well, board games and other things. But yeah, Rob's got me back into Flames of War, so thanks for that, because I really do like Flames of War. I love the military games, to be honest. So hi Rob, I hope that your army build's going well. I can't wait to see some of your videos on it, so that's a little bit of a hint, get recording, get building. And then 3 other colleagues I'd like to, or friends I'd like to say hello to, is firstly Sedge. So he's one of my regular opponents. And all your friends, all gamer friends, have like kind of a classification to their friends that this friend is known for this aspect of the gaming and hobby, and so on and so forth. So what would I classify Sedge as? Sedge would be a no holds barred, murder everyone, have fun, doesn't matter about rules or well, no, that's not true. I don't mean it doesn't matter about rules. It doesn't matter about the object of the game as long as he's having fun and killing stuff. So that's kind of Sedge and his play style. And yeah, you can always guarantee a lot of banter and sarcasm from Sedge. Then we got Paul, who I suppose out of my group of friends is probably the most knowledgeable on history and military, World War II and earlier. Probably because he's about that age, he probably lived through it for all we know. He's about 170 or something, I don't know. But he's good with the rules as well. Has a good grasp of rules, so we can him and I can bounce our thoughts, or if one doesn't remember a rule, one of the other ones will. And then we've got Chris, who is, I guess, everyone's got that guy who they know who rolls dice terrible, and I don't know how someone can be repeatedly bad at rolling dice. It's statistically impossible. If you roll 100 dice, you should have pretty average results, but you just without a shadow of a doubt, that is not the case with Chris. If he rolls 100 dice, 40 will be ones. And the ones will be when you will say it's a critical roll. So, anything but a 1, that's when he'll roll a 1. Without doubt. Occasionally we'll play a game where one's a good result. I can't think of the games offhand where rolling lower is better. And he's absolutely awesome at those games. Just terrible at most other games. He's also tries his hardest to remember rolls, but anything that goes in the brain just dribbles out over the course of a few minutes out of the years. So his rule retention is terrible. But he's also a good fun to play against, and he's probably the best painter. Well, he's the best painter of the group, so always good to have someone, and creating terrain and things. So it's always good to have someone who's good at the hobby side of the hobbying side of these hobbies. And then there's myself, and I don't want to do any kind of self-reflection of what I am. I'll probably let them write that in the comments because that might be funnier. I'm pretty sure something like rules lawyer or cheaty pants or probably just those two. But also, I'm going to let them type what I am. And yeah, so I'll just show some quick images of these models painted, not painted, I wish, of made up and everything, and then we'll get on to future episodes. So I'll see you then. Bye bye.